The Jim and Terry Show, carrying on as we do with things that we find puzzling, strange, baffling, and without meaning to use this word because it's tainted now, but things we find deplorable. Attitudes that we think are not, well, who would think this? Who would say this stuff? And so we're going to start with a clip and we'll let our listeners join us. We'll catch you after this one.
I don't give two shits that families are being separated if somebody's getting deported. I actually find it hilarious. It gives me a great deal of comfort. I find you guys to be subhumans.
Well, there you go. Okay, that's a podcast, but the excerpt is what we want to focus on. And it's the notion that this lady who's a TikTok influencer found out that you shouldn't say some things out loud even though you may feel them and believe them yourself. Best not to let that genie out of the box. So you heard the story of this person and what she said in an up close so you can see her face, and she posted it to a TikTok account that you could then track and find out who the individual actually is. And that's the second part of the story. The first part of the story is, please, lady, what are you saying? Do you even hear yourself when you say these words that you don't give a...
Matter of fact, she finds it hysterical.
Yes,
because she finds these people meaning a whole race of people.
Right.
You're not talking some jerk in the neighborhood. A whole race of people being subhuman.
Right.
That's what she said with her mouth.
And the subhumans are people who came, often some of them came thousands of kilometers from Central and South America to get into the United States. And these are the people that she so dismissively casts off as, you're subhuman. Well, we know.
And she actually finds great joy, she said, in their suffering.
Joy in someone else's suffering.
How on earth do you breathe? I don't even understand that.
I can't conceive
Remember
of that either.
the show years back, maybe, I don't know how long back it was, but I said, jeepers, maybe Canada should just open the northern border and say, come on up. These people walked thousands of miles in order to find freedom, to find work, not just to sit around in the streets. Don't anybody buy into that. To find work, establish a family, and have the American dream. I was almost thinking, why not just come right up to Canada? We could probably use you and populate the prairies, and maybe the prairies would be mad at me at saying that, but there's a lot of open land.
Canada got into problems, and the provinces were starting to say to Trudeau, we got to limit immigration. So that was, we said that before the immigration problems that started to emerge in Canada. We started to open the doors, and maybe we had too much, but that's a provincial, federal thing that they need to work out. Provinces tell Ottawa how many immigrants they need for their particular economies, whether it's your Alberta or whether you're Ontario or Quebec, and that's negotiated and the numbers are decided. Sometimes we do it because there are displaced people who are in a war-torn area, and we'll take them out of kindness, and that's what Canada is supposed to be for, is open door, like the shining light on a hill of the United States.
Yeah.
But
are they going to dismantle the Statue of Liberty?
I think it sank. If it hasn't, it's sinking.
Because let's face it, immigrants fill a crucial role, and they can also be satisfied. This is going to sound cruel, but I don't mean it to be. They will fill jobs that we won't. I remember back, it was the Italians would dig the ditch. The Irish would do whatever they would do in order to get by, but they're smart. And they end up building businesses, and they end up being very wealthy. And the same thing would happen with Americans, because they're not subhuman, they're human. So they would come up, and then one would organize the others, and next thing you know, there's a business growing with paying taxes, with providing health care, and all the rest of it. Perfect example of this is, believe it or not, a resort I go to every spring. There was a fellow there that would perform. He was just a performer. And then one year I showed up, all the performers were under his apron. He was the agency now for all the performers that performed at all of those resorts.
Yeah.
And I thought, way to go, buddy. I mean, you knew you were getting tired of it. So he organized them. And so he, I guess he said to them, I'll organize where you play and you're going to have steady work. And so a business came out of that. So the same thing would happen with immigration. Businesses pop up, and then if there's a lot, other businesses pop up. A perfect example would be a little restaurant or something to provide the people with food they're common to. No different than an Italian.
Cuisines.
No different than what we have today with Italian restaurants or Philippine restaurants, Thailand restaurants. All these restaurants pop up, which employ people and provide wonderful meals
different
for the
cultures.
rich like me.
I don't know about us being the rich or the elites, but the part of this,
until the end of February.
the part of this is the term that she used, which is subhuman, which has a specific word in German, which is taking us back to Hitler and Mein Kampf. The word is Untermensch, which is subhuman.
Yeah.
And that word is what she used in that opening excerpt.
Yeah.
And when you use that, you know exactly what you are doing. You are dehumanizing people. You are showing anything but the compassion of Christ.
You're also
And
saying that you are a superior being.
yes, by default, if you are that, I am this.
Yeah.
And we're not the same.
Yeah.
We call that otherizing, when you point the finger and say, you're not like me. You're different. And different is bad. And
Yeah.
that's a big problem. Anyway, there's this part 2 to this story, and the letters FAFO, like ABCDEF, FAFO, FEFF, F around and F as in find out. F around and find out. That means you voted for this guy.
Okay.
And now are the consequences, and why are you surprised that the price of eggs are going up? Why are you surprised that the war in Ukraine has not been solved? Why are you surprised that violence is still happening? Why are you surprised that Trump is building Guantanamo Bay expansion to hold illegal immigrants? What?
Why are you surprised that he's making enemies out of allies?
That is perhaps one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, that's just strange.
So is it strange? I heard in your Stay Spiritual, the kids' broadcast on the ideologies, that one of them was imperialism. Imperialism is the belief that your culture, your country is better than anybody else, and therefore you deserve what everybody else has. So if you've got a strong military, use it. Go out and beat somebody's ask me no questions, and take whatever they've got. Now, Trump is not threatening us yet in Canada with
Sure
conquering.
he has. He's declared war on Canada.
Well, an economic
He
war.
said, I'll fight you financially.
Yes, but that's not
economically.
the same as blowing stuff up, which is what has happened in Europe in World War I, World War II, all the imperial wars before that, Napoleonic wars, all of that
If
stuff.
you ain't seen nothing yet.
That's a great song. I love
Yeah,
it.
I know. You ain't seen nothing yet.
And the BTO, great song. We have not seen. This is 2 weeks in, but it's scaring.
Not even 2 weeks in.
Not even 2 weeks in. It's scaring the bejeebers out of me.
Yeah.
The
well,
bejesus.
he's a dangerous guy because, number one, he's throwing, I don't understand fully, I haven't understood fully, just throwing everything out there. Is it because whatever's really bad's going to emerge, you go, oh, thank God, it's only one thing.
That's our philosophy. Thank God he didn't do everything.
He didn't do everything. He just did this one thing, like the Robert F. Kennedy being the health, head of health.
Department of Health and Human Services?
Yes. When he doesn't get that, if he doesn't, and we're all hoping he doesn't, then who's going to fall in? Oz? Oh, good, it's Oz. The crackpot Oz. So, one crackpot's a little less than the other. Is that the
You're talking about Dr. Oz.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's...
What do they all have in common? These TV personalities
Yeah.
and former Fox News anchors?
and not only that, they will kiss the proverbial ring. And the reason I say proverbial on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's not the ring.
it's not the ring on the finger. I'm going to write a song about that.
It's not the
not
ring on the
finger. So he's putting in yes men to do all of his bidding. Part of throwing out everything like this may be to see who's loyal, who goes into his office and says, great Hitler, Trump, great, may you live forever. Your decisions are wonderful. And others may go in there and say, Sir, that's against the law. He'd be an enemy. There is no law. He's already established that. He's
is
above
the
the
law.
law. He is the law. And that's what he really wants, isn't he? He wants to be that ultimate CEO of a nation, which, what's the other word for that, Terry? Dictator.
Orange dictator.
And have not we been saying that? Yes. We've been saying it. He wants to be the dictator of the United States. Musk, Bezos, and the rest of them are just going to be oligarchs. And they don't realize that all their money now in the dictator's world is actually his.
Yeah, bum, bum, bum. All right, getting back to this guy, the opening, or this woman at the beginning, it's the FA part of it is F around, which means you didn't do due diligence. You were swept into the belief of the Agent Orange, the great orange Jesus, the orange Messiah is going to save America and make it great again. You got sucked into that. That's the F around part. Okay, you didn't do your due diligence. You got sucked in. Now the find out part is when consequences start. The price of eggs have gone up 40%. That's just the start. In this lady's case, she was found out on social media, found out her real name, not her alias, not her TikTok influencer name. And people started to investigate more about where she worked, sending letters to the place of employment saying, do you know what kind of person you have on your staff? Do you not have a hiring policy that talks about racism, about discrimination, about all of these things that she's saying? Do you realize that she's like a neo-Nazi? Do you understand that? And so the pressure starts to get. So the find out part of this whole thing is when people use their feet, their voices, and protest in some way. Be careful what we say, because unless you mean it, unless she's really genuinely a racist and thinks this of real people, and she's crying her crocodile tears, if that's really her, then
Didn't she lose her job?
She did. That was the find out part. She lost her job.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut in. I thought we were leaving the show here.
There you go. The Jim and Terry Show. We thought we'd start off with some real life experience. Be careful of TikTok. And TikTok takes us to another question about social media and its role.
Or deep seek.
Yes. Do you know anything about it?
Not much. Other than it's
we'll talk about
ruffling a lot of feathers everywhere.
We'll talk about some of this stuff as much as we know next podcast. Stay tuned. Jim and Terry Show signing off for now. Bye-bye.